President, please be seated. The chamber is now back in session, and I would like to give the floor to the Deputy Co-Prosecutor to put more questions to the witness. You have the floor now.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, first, I would like to make a point of clarification. Earlier, you said that Takut's wife, that is to say, Chanta's grandmother, was called Yihai. And I'd like to check something with you. Was this her name as such, or was this the way she was being called, the way that that people address older people in according to the Vietnamese tradition? So does Yihai correspond to the way you address elders in Vietnamese?
People call her Ye Hai. Her husband Takut also addressed his wife Ye Hai.
Fine. Just before the break, you said that a person had survived the executions at Wak Sak because this person had said that she was Chinese. You said that you don't remember this person's name. So I would like to read your statement again, because you provided her name in 2008. This is E3/7685 WRI on page 3 in French, 3 and 4 in English, and 3 and 4 in Khmer. And you said that the woman who survived was called Lang. So does this ring a bell?
Yes, I remember now. Her name is Ye Lang. She lived in Mongolborai, but she has already passed away.
And you also mentioned that her son Kun had also survived. Are these the two only people, as far as you know, who survived the executions at Wak Sak?
Yes, only two survived. One named Kun and one named Lang.
And after the executions at Wak Sak, did you have an opportunity to meet Lang and Kun and to speak with them about what had happened?
I did not talk to them. After the regime, she went to live in Battambang in Mongolborai, and later on she passed away. I met only her child, but never had the opportunity to talk.
Was Lang fair-skinned, and did Lang speak Khmer with an accent?
Yes, she spoke Khmer clearly. She spoke Khmer without any accent.
Was she fair-skinned, or was her complexion like the complexion of the Khmer?
She had white skin. She had white skin as those of as the ethnic Chinese. President, please counsel Victor Kope, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, I object to that question. Admittedly, I'm not at all an expert in saying what Khmer people look like, but to make a distinction between Khmer on the one hand being only dark-skinned and all light-skinned people must therefore not be Khmer. Mr. President, I'm sure you know better, but I don't think that distinction is a fair distinction.
Well, it was an observation more than anything, I believe. Well, in the countryside, in the period between 75 and 78, there were no products to make your skin lighter. But in any case, let me get back to what happened at Wak Sat. During the day that preceded the executions, did you hear or did you see from afar that people were gathered within that pagoda?
I saw from the distance and also heard from the distance. I did not dare to get close.
And what did you see from a distance? How many people were there? For example, were there many people? Were they gathered in a specific spot within the pagoda?
There were not many. There, once in a while, there was one brought in, and then after a while, there were many in the pagoda, but I could not tell how many because I looked from a distance from the pagoda.
Fine. I understood that you already told the investigators that you didn't want to venture providing a specific figure. But however, can you give us an idea, a range, if you're not sure of the exact number? For example, were they fewer than 10? Were they more than 10? Or several dozens? If you could simply tell us if you're able or not to give us an idea of how many people there were.
President, witness, please hold on. The floor now is given to Counsel Victor Kope.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to this question. This is asking for speculation. He wasn't there. He wasn't on site. Asking the witness to give us an idea is a request for pure speculation. So I object.
Mr. President, I don't believe so. I'm simply asking what the witness saw, even if it was from a distance. I'm simply asking us to give us an idea of the number. He just told us that there were many people around the pagoda. So if he doesn't know, if he's not able to assess how many people there were, then he doesn't have to.
President, the chamber disapprove of the objection by the defense counsel. So
Actually, the question is asked for the estimate, not for speculation. And witness, please respond to the last question if you still remember it.
I estimated it's about 10 people or 20 people. It looked like there were a lot of people.
Fine. So does many people for you mean 10 or 20 people? Is that what I must understand?
Yeah, 10 or 20 people, and I think this is a lot of it's a lot in number.
Alors le soir des
So, on the evening of the executions, of that day when the executions occurred, rather, were you at home? You said that your house was about 300 meters away from where the executions took place. Before the OCIJ, you said 150 meters, but that doesn't matter. But in any case, were you at home that evening, and can you tell us what you heard coming from the pagoda?
I heard the voice from the pagoda. I was very scared. I came down to the ground. I did not stay on my house. I stay close to the coconut tree and try to listen to the sound.
And what did you hear exactly? You spoke about voices. Did you hear people shouting, screaming?
They scream "Yoi Yai" like that.
And were these cries so loud that you could hear them distinctly in your home or around your home, since you had just stepped out of your home?
They shouted very clearly.
Did you also hear the blows, the strikes against the victim?
I did not hear. I did not hear the sound of the strike. I heard only the cry.
And before the investigators of the OCIJ in your WRI E3/7865 on page 3 in each of the 3 languages, you answered the following regarding the time when the executions began. You said it was 9 p.m. I heard the sounds of them striking the people. I heard the sounds fus fus, and I heard the screams yoi yoi. End of quote. So, did you hear these strikes, or did you only hear the cries, as you just said?
I heard only the cry, not the strike sound. Push, push. I did not hear the strike sound.
When you heard these cries that you could hear from afar, did you understand right away what was going on? Did you think that executions were happening?
Yes, I heard the cry and I thought that it was the execution because the cry was so loud.
Were they only cries of pain, or did the victims also cry out to those who were executing them? Did you possibly hear what the victims might have said?
I I heard only the cry. I I heard only the cry, not any request for life.
And that evening, did the executions last a long time? Were you able to go to sleep before the end of the cries?
I I stayed to listen to the cry until there was no more voice and I could not sleep well.
So, therefore, how long did the executions last? I know that back then nobody had a watch, but in any case, can you tell us that the executions lasted several minutes or several hours?
It was about 2 hours.
Well, you spoke about two families at least who were executed at Waksa. You spoke about Chanta on the one hand, and you also spoke about the family of Chumkia in Hong. Did you learn that if Hong's children, their aunt spoke about 3 small children, so did you get to know if these 3 children were also killed at Waksa?
All of them were killed at Wat Ksat.
In the days that followed the executions at Waksa, did you have an opportunity to discuss this with other villagers who might have heard the cries like you? Did you learn anything new regarding certain villagers who maybe had seen these executions?
No, I did not.
After the executions of Vietnamese and of people of Vietnamese origin at Ksak Pagoda, were there still people of Vietnamese origin left in your village? And were there still people of Vietnamese origin left in other villages in Sang Voi commune, aside from Takut and Yi Yai, whom you said were executed later?
President, witness, please hold on. The floor now is given to Counsel Victor Kope.
I object, Mr. President. This is a very leading question. We have heard the evidence of the witness. He hasn't seen the execution. He hasn't seen people brought to the pagoda. He describes the people that he thinks were executed. Whether they were executed because they were Vietnamese, excuse me, or happened to be Vietnamese, is something that this witness doesn't know. By using the words Vietnamese origin almost in every question, the prosecution is constantly leading this witness into saying that they were killed because of their Vietnamese origin, hence trying to establish genocide. He should just ask open questions and non-leading questions when it comes to that specific part.
Mr. President, please let me respond. I am not the one who suggested that as of the start when I asked who had been killed at Waksat. It was the witness himself, who said that the people who had been executed were only people of Vietnamese origin. And then you spoke about a survivor and her son, who are of Chinese origin and who were spared, or in any case, because the mother said that she was Chinese. So I'm not inventing anything. I'm only basing myself on the witness's testimony. And I believe that the question that I put to the witness, although it might be a bit complex, is perfectly justified.
President, the chamber object the request by the defense counsel, and the chamber now give the floor to the deputy co-prosecutor to give the floor to the witness to answer the question to the international deputy co-prosecutor.
Merci le témoin, je crois.
Witness, I think I'm going to repeat the question because it was rather complex. So aside from Takut and Yihai, whom you said were killed later after the Waksat executions, that is to say, were there still people of Vietnamese origin in your village and in the other villages of Sang Voi commune after the Waksat execution?
No, I did not know about those in other village.
Did you ever learn or get to know how the children were executed at Waksat?
All of them were killed, including the children.
Did you understand why the infants were also executed?
I do not know. I do not know what were the reason behind their execution.
Did you go to the pagoda the day following the executions?
No, I did not dare to go. I went there 3 days later. I went there to search for my cows, and then I saw clothes spreading around that area, and the people in the pagoda disappeared.
You said that there were clothes spread around the Ksak Pagoda. Could you be a bit more precise about that?
President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. Their clothes were taken off.
Were the executioners still at the Ksak Pagoda 3 days later when you went to look for your cows? Did you see if there were still people within the pagoda, not victims, but executioners rather?
No, there were none. There were no people in the pagoda.
So if I understood well, you never saw the executioners who executed the people at the Ksat Pagoda one evening in 1978, nor before nor after the executions.
Yes, I did not see them. I did not see the executioner.
Alors, vous avez mentionné.
Well, you said that clothes had been taken off of the victims and that were scattered around the pagoda. What else did you see around the pagoda? What kinds of elements did you see that may be connected to the executions? For example, did you see instruments that might have been used to execute these people?
I saw a bamboo trunk club of about 1 meter long. And there were blood stains on it.
Did you see one or several pits that were covered up then?
I saw the pit. The pit was about 4 square meter, and in it there was a well, and it was covered with soil.
Je veux être sûr d'avoir bien compris la dimension.
I am not sure I properly understood the dimensions. You talked of 4 square meters on page 3 of your record of interview. In all 3 languages, you said that the pit into which the people killed were thrown had a 5 by 10 meters dimension, and you also made mention of a well. Can you specify the dimensions of that pit again, please?
I cannot give you an exact measure. It could be 5 meters by 10 meters, and there was also a well in the pit, and the depth of the well was about 3 to 4 meters.
Donc j'ai bien compris que le.
I have understood that the well was in the pit, or were the wells set apart from the pits?
The well itself was located right in the middle of the pit.
Par rapport à.
In relation to the central or the main entrance into the pagoda, in what direction was that pit located? South, west, east, or north?
President, witness, please observe the microphone. Witness, it was located to the east and a bit to the south of the pagoda.
Je voudrais maintenant.
With the chamber's leave, I would like to show you 2 photographs. I know that your sight is not very good. We are talking of photographs and not text. These photographs were taken by OCIG investigators at the time when you visited the pagoda. It is in the geographic identification site E3/8049, and the pages in French are 10 and 11, and I believe that the same pages in all 3 languages, 10 and 11. Mr. President, may I show the witness these photographs and let us see whether he can recognize them?
Yes, you may do so.
Alors, les légendes de ces deux photos sont...
The key to those photographs as follows. You see that witness Yvonne is showing a pit from which several bones were exhumed. Photograph number 10, the other photograph shows another view of pit D. Witness, are you the person on that photograph? And do you recognize the site that you were showing the investigators?
I pointed to the location of the well where the bodies were buried.
Comment savez-vous qu'il y avait des corps à
How did you know that there were bodies inside the well? Was that well badly covered, or were there any traces that show that people had been buried in that well? Were there any signs of bodies buried in the well?
Actually, it was covered with dirt, but it was not fully covered, so some limbs were sticking out.
Et est-ce que c'était des membres?
Was it limbs sticking out or bones? Are you talking of limbs that had not been completely decomposed or bones?
I refer to the elbow bones, and also some bones were actually discovered by dogs.
J'en viens à la dernière partie de mes questions.
This will be the last part of my questions. Apart from the night in which you heard the screams, and you said that persons of Vietnamese origin were executed at the Sac Pagoda, did you hear that the Vietnamese of the region were executed at other execution sites?
No, I did not know. I did not know about any other execution sites.
Comment avez-vous su? Vous avez parlé tout à l'heure du fait
A while ago, you said that Takut and Yeyai had been executed after the Sac Pagoda at Dambang and Nu in Chok village. How did you know about those executions, and what can you tell the chamber about them?
The villagers in Chok village told me about that they were killed at Andong Noon area. I refer here to Takut and Ye Hai.
Et combien de temps avant
And how long before the arrival of the Vietnamese were those executions carried out?
If you are you referring to the execution of the Kotsu group? If there is a case, it happened right at the year of the coming of the troops.
Donc vous voulez dire au tout début, 1979?
Do you mean at the very beginning of 1979, if I understand you correctly?
Yes, it was in early 1979.
Est-ce qu'ils étaient seulement deux, d'origine vietnamienne?
Were they only two persons of Vietnamese origin executed then, or there were other persons? Did the villagers of Chok talk to you about that?
There were only these two.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur le témoin.
Thank you very much, witness, for having answered my questions. We, the co-prosecutors, have completed our examination, and I am sure the civil party lead co-lawyer will have some questions for the witness, Mr. President.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, witness. My name is Marie Giro. I am representing the consolidated group of civil parties, and I have very brief questions to put to you. You stated a while ago, in answer to a question put to you by the international co-prosecutor, that you did not remember whether the list of persons of Vietnamese origin had been drawn up before the executions at the Sak Pagoda, but you pointed out that in 1975 I heard of such a list. Can you explain to the chamber what list you had heard of in 1975 in reference to persons of Vietnamese origin?
I did not know what the list was. The list was prepared by the commune committee. They did not only register the Vietnamese people, but also the Khmer people, including myself.
Donc, si je vous comprends bien, il s'agissait d'une liste.
So if I understand you correctly, that list was drawn up by the commune committee in 1975, and it was a list of all villagers in the commune. Have I properly understood your testimony?
Yes, that is correct.
Est-ce que vous avez su à l'époque
Did you know at the time whether the ethnicity of the persons on that list, including yourself, was mentioned?
They drew up the statistics of the people residing in the area, including those who were wealthy or those who were poor. They also asked about the social classes of the people, and then they registered their names.
Donc, il s'agit d'une liste.
So we are talking of a list that was drawn up at the level of the region, if I understand correctly from the French interpretation. And on that list, a number of kinds of statistics were mentioned. So they would mention whether the person were of Chinese or Vietnamese or Cambodian origin. Is that correct?
Mr. President, I didn't hear the witness say region, and in French the word wasn't used also, as I understand, but I heard commune.
J'ai entendu les deux.
I heard both. Initially, I heard the witness talk of lists that were drawn up at the level of the commune, and in follow-up questions, at least in the French interpretation, I heard mention of the word region. Perhaps I can have the witness clarify this. It is possible that the colleague heard what I heard. Witness, was the list drawn up at the level of the commune or at the level of the region?
The list was drawn up by the commune committee, and then it moved down to the level of the village.
C'est très clair. Je vous remercie.
That is very clear, and I thank you for that. You therefore mentioned that on the list, certain kinds of information were provided for each inhabitant. You said they asked whether the person was rich or poor. Was the ethnicity of the people, whether they were of Vietnamese, Khmer, or Chinese origin or ethnicity, was mentioned? Did they ask the inhabitants to mention that particular detail as the list was being drawn up?
No, I did not hear anything about that. I did not hear that they asked question about the ethnicity of the people in the area.
Avez-vous déjà entendu le terme
Did you ever hear the term Lang Thai? Is that a term you had heard at the time, that is between 1975 and 1979?
Yes, I heard the people talking about Lang Thai.
Pouvez-vous expliquer à la Cour?
Can you explain to the chamber what Lang Thai meant to you? Is that a document? And if yes, explain to the chamber what type of document it was.
Lang Thai was actually a card. It is similar to our current ID card.
Étiez-vous vous-même muni d'un Lang Thai?
Did you yourself have a Lang Thai during that period?
No, I did not have one.
Donc, qui avait un Lang Thai à l'époque?
So who had a Lang Thai during that period? Was it a document reserved for a certain category of persons?
It was for the people of Vietnamese origins.
Savez-vous à quelle époque
Do you know during what era those lang ties reserved for Vietnamese people or people of Vietnamese origin was established? Was it before the DK era, during, or during the during the Sangkum Neo period?
Actually, lang tai was used even before the Khmer Rouge regime. It actually was used since the Sangkum Rih Niyum.
Et pour bien comprendre
And to properly understand the nature of that document, you have stated that it was a card reserved for persons of Vietnamese origin. Was that card kept by the owners themselves, either on them or in their homes?
Yes. They are kept by themselves. It is like our ID cards that we always have it with us wherever we travel. And this lang tai had a black cover. When the Vietnamese people entered Cambodia, they need to obtain this lang tai first before they are authorized to leave. Here I refer to the experience in the Sangkum Rih Niyum period.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Do you know whether during the Khmer Rouge period, if I may use a vague but dedicated term used before this chamber, did you hear that cadres from your village and from your commune were looking for persons who were equipped with that lang tai to know whether those persons were of Vietnamese origin or not? Do you know whether that was something talked about during that period?
No, I did not hear about that. I did not hear cadres going and searching for Vietnamese.
Je vous remercie. J'en ai terminé.
Thank you. I have come to the end of my questions in this particular line of questioning, but I have one last question. Did there come a time during the period from 1975 to 1979 that a military unit was stationed in your village?
Which military are you referring to? In fact, no military unit was based in my area.
Je vous remercie. Nous avons entendu un témoin.
Thank you. We heard a witness who appeared earlier this month, and that person stated that a military unit was stationed during the DK regime at Sak Pagoda. Is this information that you would confirm, or you wouldn't confirm such information, or you know nothing about any such allegation?
No, I knew nothing about this information.
Très bien. Je vous remercie.
Very well. Thank you, witness, for answering my questions. Thank you, Mr. President. I am done.
President, thank you. The time is appropriate for our break. We'll take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. Court officer, please assist the witness at the awaiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties, and invite him back into the courtroom at 1:30 this afternoon. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Kyu Sampon to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court is now in recess.